Hello and welcome to the ICC Review. This is a regular cricket podcast where we run through the biggest headlines in the sport with the greatest names in the game. On this episode, recorded on October 20th, we'd like to wish everyone a very happy Diwali first up, and we're joined by legends Ravi Shastri and Ricky Ponting to chat about a bit of this and a bit of that, the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup, the Ashes, the current Indian team down in Australia. There's so much coming your way. We hope you enjoy it. We're back with the ICC review, and on the show today we have Ravi Shastri and Ricky Ponting, the OGs of this podcast. Gentlemen, welcome. We're so glad to be able to sit down and chat to you. First up, Ravi, Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, easily the biggest headline of cricket this past week. They made their return to international cricket in Perth, but struggled to make an impact. Is the pressure on them added now because they've retired from T20s and from tests?
Not really. I mean, they came back. They got caught on a dodgy pitch. It was a good toss to win for Australia, and then the weather was such that it wasn't easy. But when you come back from from a long layoff, you obviously are going to be rusty. It's not easy for any overseas team to land in Australia, say 2 days prior to a game in Perth, and adjust to those conditions straight away. Especially when you have that extra bounce, you have quality fast bowlers. When I say quality, world-class fast bowlers, Josh and Mitch, at you. But I think only time will tell. They go to Adelaide. They have some time off, to get into the nets, get their minds sorted, and get back into action. So I'm in no hurry to judge, but it's when you come back at that age after some time, it's about how much you're enjoying the sport, how much hunger is there, and passion is left in you to play the game. So if you tick the boxes in 2 out of those 3, especially the enjoyment part of it, then you can give the bloke time, because they've got class, they've got experience, and a little bit of time will sort things out. But I'd rather wait than jump and judge immediately.
Before that first ODI in Perth, you sat in studio with Adam Gilchrist and Virat Kohli, and he, to all of us watching from the outside, seemed very content, very
Mm.
at
Mm.
ease with his retirement decision. Did it seem like that for you as well?
Yeah, he's because he said one thing there. I've given my everything. I've given my everything. I've played more cricket, than anyone else. When you judge, he was captain of all 3 formats of the game for 5 or 6 years. Uh, then played all the IPL games. He played all formats, didn't miss a single thing. Plus captained, the side, and even when he was not captain, did most of it. So I think after a while, Virat as well as I do, that he doesn't leave any stone unturned when it comes to preparation. He's brutal on himself, at times, and that might have taken its toll, over a span of time. Don't forget, he was part of a winning team that won the 2011 World Cup. So that stretches back about 14 to 16 years of cricket. So, and when you add the IPL, when you add the third format of the game, which has taken prominence, T20, the workload on a player is tremendous. And when the expectations are that high on an individual who sets standards, which are really high, then it starts taking its toll. And then that enjoyment factor, that hunger factor, that same focus that's there in the sport, it doesn't exist. He doesn't have the appetite, to put in the same amount of work day in, day out. And hence, that might have prompted the decision. Right, wrong, only time will tell, only he'll know. But,
Mm.
the fact that both of them, Rohit and him, are playing just one format of the game now, it makes it harder, because there's not enough cricket, under their belt. Match fitness is the key. You got to play matches. So, you've got to ask the question, where will they play those matches? So only time will tell, really.
Ricky, I come to you with a question that you're probably not, this won't be the first time or the last time you're being asked this. Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma, do you see them fit into India's best 11 for that 2027 Cricket World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to carry on from what Ravi had to say there. You know, the one thing I don't like hearing from anyone is that, you know, I've achieved everything in the game because I think you still have to have some really short-term goals and not just be hanging on to try and get through to the 2027 World Cup. So, you know, Virat's always been, you know, a highly motivated person, and I'd like to think that he's probably sat down and even just given himself some goals of things that he can achieve in this series here in Australia, and not be just waiting and killing time for that next World Cup to come around. Look, what we know with both of those guys, at their absolute best, yes, of course they're in India's best team, but can they find their best between now and when that World Cup rocks around? And that's only an answer that like Ravi said, that we'll find out in a short period of time. You know, they will get some really good batting wickets coming up over the next few weeks here in Australia. You know, there's not many places that better to go and bat in a one day than Adelaide Oval, which is coming up in a couple of days. But yeah, and finding your rhythm and tempo is the biggest thing. When you've had a break, just getting back used to the rhythm and the tempo of the 50 over game again is takes a little bit of time for anybody. So I'd expect to see both those guys, you know, bounce back into it pretty quickly. As I said, Adelaide's a great place to bat and a great place to play cricket. But it won't be easy for the fact that they are facing some of the best white ball bowlers that have ever played the game. So yeah, the challenge is definitely there, but you know, I say it all the time. You don't write off champion players ever, and these two guys have been two of the best. And I'm on record saying I think Virat's the best 50 over player I've ever seen. You don't write them off. They'll find a way to contribute and win games for their team, and if they do that, then they'll most likely be in that World Cup team in 2027.
And Sanjana, I'll just step in there into that question of 2027. Who do you think is certain 2027? I mean, it's a long way off. No one can take their place for granted. I mean, forget these two. No one can take their place. There could be injuries in the span of time. There could be new players coming on the block. There could be loss of form for certain players who you think are certain now. So, you know, it's a long way off. So it's a long shot. So, you know, even as a selector, you know, you can't predict who's going to be there in that side in 2027 because the bench strength is so strong in white ball cricket in India. You know, there's so many players pushing, you know, for a place in the side. That form becomes paramount for the entire team, not just one or two players.
Taking a break from the look ahead, let's do a little bit of a look back. Ravi, you've traveled with these two stalwarts of Indian cricket to multiple tours down under as a coach, as a commentator, and even as a spectator. What impression do you think that Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma have had on Australian fans down under?
I mean, exactly what Ricky Ponting said there. What Ricky said, they are legends they're giants of the white ball game, you know. And what they have contributed is unreal. They're part of World Cup winning teams. They've won bilateral series in Australia. They've won, you know, the T20s and the 50 over games series in Australia. And some of their best cricket has come in Australia. Both these players, you know, where I remember an innings from Rohit Sharma at Perth. We got 160 or 170. You know, Virat Kohli, multiple innings, you know, in the one-day format of the game, test match format of the game. It's, I mean, what they've done in this country is special, apart from other parts of the world. Forget India. India, we all know what they've done. But in this country, what they've done, you know, that's why it's a sellout. In Sydney, you'll get a big crowd at Adelaide as well, because you know the contribution is not over 2 or 3 years. The contribution is over a decade and a half. In the case of Virat, you know, it's massive. So you know, people don't forget that, and they've played against some of the best bowlers, you know, that have been part of the game. You know, there's Mitch Starc there, there's Josh Hazelwood, there's Pat Cummins there's Nathan Lyon. You know, there's some from the past as well, and it's special. You know, their legacy will remain. You know, for whether they finish tomorrow or they finish day after or whenever. that legacy will remain.
For Indian cricket, it's the start of a new era. Shubman Gill has taken over as ODI skipper. What has been your assessment of how he's gone about things, Ricky, especially in his early days against England and then the Test series against West Indies?
I actually loved what he did with that team in the UK. You know, against a really good English team. Certain moments there where he probably a little bit out of character did what he had to do to put his stamp on his team and really stand up for his team. You know, little things that he did. You know, with approaching batsmen. You know, not coming off at the end of that game in where was that, in Manchester. You know, little things like that. I just think he put a really good stamp on and his name and authority on that team really quickly. And let's not forget how many runs he scored as well. I mean, he led by example with the bat, but when a really big and critical moment there where you sort of had to draw a line in the sand, he did that and was willing to do that. And you know, that hasn't always been his way. He's got it normally pretty calm and cool and got a really good demeanour on the field. Well, you know, that real fighting sort of bulldog came out in him when his team needed it the most, and that's what I love to see from any player that's representing their country, but certainly as a young captain that was really trying to say to the opposition, hang on a minute, yes, we're in your country, but you're not going to treat us like that. You're not going to bully us here. I'm here to stand up and get the job done for my team.
You talk about players that have been vital cogs in this Indian setup over the years. You can't do it without mentioning Ravindra Jadeja. Ravi, he is 10 runs away from being the fourth all-rounder to have 4,000 runs and 300 wickets to his name. Can you describe what a special player he has been to India over the years?
A gun cricketer. This guy is, he's evolved over a span of time. He's, that belief in himself now is more than ever before. Now, another guy you cannot write off. 2027, everyone talks. Do not discount or do not write off, Ravindra Jadeja. He'll be in the mix. There's no question about that. He's still fielding like, he was 7, 8 years younger than what he is. He still runs, and it's a privilege to just see him, chase a ball on the cricket field, even today. And then of course his bowling, he's getting smarter and wiser by the day. His batting is just coming along, leaps and bounds. 500 plus runs series in England, which is no joke, coming in at 5 or 6, and then amongst the wickets as well. So he's going to be in the mix because I can understand Australia because there's Akshar Patel there, just 3 matches. But you come South Africa where you're playing in different places against different teams. Both of them might play. In the 11. So it's a long way off, and he's very much in the mix. Don't discount him. He might be in the side against South Africa straight away.
As a superb fielder yourself, Ricky, where does Ravindra Jadeja in the field stand in the list of all-time best fielders in Test cricket history?
Well, I was just thinking about him then, and I think I need to get some of whatever he's taking because he doesn't seem to be aging at all. It almost seems to be getting younger and moving just as well in the field, and his batting's got better. He's a better Test batsman now than ever before, and his fielding's always been, probably the strong point of his game, and that's saying something. When you talk about only 4 other all-rounders achieving what he's about to achieve, you put his fielding on top of that, and there's probably arguably not ever been a better 3-dimensional player in the white ball formats. So no, I know he picked me off a couple of times when he first started. No one had really seen him much in the field, and you'd take him on from deep point, and you get halfway back to the second run, and it was like, well, I'm in trouble here. So. No, I mean, Warnie always told us about him right from the start. Warnie had him, I think, his first year of IPL cricket, and Warnie told us about this kid Jadeja and how good he would be, and once again, Warnie wasn't wrong. So no, he's. I mean, it's hard to say he's the best fielder of all time, but you'd put him right up there in the absolute upper echelon of fielders in all formats of the game.
And Sanjana, Ricky mentioned about his arm. Now, I've seen a lot of great fielders, over a span of time, something happens to their shoulder. The power of the throw from the boundary is not the same. This guy still is, those throws are like a rocket that comes from the fence. No one will take a chance on that second. They see him, and a lot of times the hand goes up. As a commentator from viewing it from upstairs, the hand's going to go up. The guy who has to run to the danger end. He's straight no. It is when Jadeja is closing in on the ball. That arm, he's 37. 36 or 37, and to have an arm like that is
Well,
terrific.
that's what I was saying. He's the modern day
Ricky's.
Benjamin Button. He's seemingly getting younger and fitter and stronger as the older he gets. Great player.
Mm, mm.
Ricky's not wrong. We all need to get in on whatever he's been taking for that eternal youth. But for a second, Ravi, I need you to put your coach's hat back on. There's a five-match T20 international series against Australia, so close to a T20 World Cup. How should India approach this series with a big prize on the horizon?
No, they must think of their best 11, and go out there. And because you won't get a better side or a better place to prepare than Australia. I know the conditions will be different, but if you can get your balance right and your the mix right. I know things might change for Indian conditions when it be an extra spinner or things of that sort, but try and get that batting lineup right, from the outset, and treat this series as very seriously. Try and win this series because that will stand you in good stead moving ahead against South Africa, against New Zealand when you play those T20s before the World Cup. This is the start, and it's ideal preparation. You can't get Australia's strong T20 team. They've got some really good young players, in the mix there. So it'll be a good test.
India's key player up top, Ricky Ponting, at the moment is Abhishek Sharma. What makes him so dangerous?
Look, I've absolutely loved watching his progression as a player. I actually debuted him when I was coaching in Delhi as a 17-year-old. We picked him up in the auction, just came straight out of the India under-19s. He was a young, skinny left-hander that we sort of threw to the Wolves one game. Our season wasn't going great, but I think we batted him at number 6 maybe in his debut for Delhi. And he hit his first ball, I think it was off Mohammad Siraj, straight back over his head for 6. And I was like, wow, he's got something about him. I mean, his stroke play right now is the equal of anyone in the world in T20 cricket. It's both sides of the wicket. He hits over the offside so beautifully, hits down the ground really, really well. And when you've got those left-handers that hit the ball so well over the offside, the only thing you can really do as a bowler is try and straighten your line up a little bit. And if you do that to Abhishek, then he's got that shot that he picks up over square leg and hits about 100 metres over deep backward square. And plays fast bowling well, plays spin bowling well. So he's a dynamic package that, as I said, I've loved watching him year on year. I don't love coaching against him, I must admit, because he got 140 against us, I think, in IPL last year, which is just simply a brilliant knock. So I love watching him play though.
Ricky, it wouldn't be a complete show if we didn't sneak in a little Ashes chat. What is your prediction for an early Australian 11 with little nuggets of explanation? Who do you see coming in? Who do you see going out?
Yeah, we're in a really interesting little phase right now, I think, with the talk about the selections for this first Test match, because it was well planned by Cricket Australia to have 4 Sheffield Shield games leading into the first Test. 2 of those games have been played already. Some guys have been standouts. Other guys that are in the reckoning haven't really taken their opportunity to the maximum just yet. We know Sam Constance has been the incumbent. He played the last series in the West Indies. He's one that probably hasn't capitalised as much as he would have liked in those first 2 games. But like Ravi said about about how long there is to the 27 World Cup, these players have still got probably 4 innings to go before that Test team has to get picked. And we'll have a bit of a clearer picture then. Marnus Labuschagne's the obvious one. I mean, Marnus at his absolute best is in Australia's best team every day of the week, but he hasn't been able to find his best form, over the last couple of years. And it looks like now back at state level, he's starting to find it again. Certainly starting to talk that way. He's a lot more confident and scoring. I think he's made 400 in his last 5 hits or something like that. So last 6 innings, I think. So. No, he's going well, but still a long way out. Boland's the obvious replacement, I think, for Cummins. Stark and Hazelwood, watching them bowl last night, I think they're going to be fine. Cameron Green's the other one right now. He's actually pulled out of this one-day series with some stiffness in his side. Now, we know that he hasn't bowled for a long time, and if he bowls or if he doesn't bowl, could have a big impact on the way that the Australian batting line lines up for the first. If he's 100% fit and ready to bowl properly in Perth, then they might think about the batting order being slightly different. Do they need Webster then at number 6, or has Webster done enough to keep himself in the side anyway? I'd like to think that he has, even if Green is bowling, he'll probably be on limited workload anyway. So I think Webster deserves to be in the side. So then I think it's probably it comes down to whether they want to back in the youth of Constas at the start of an Ashes series, or if the sheer weight of runs for Marnus is going to get him back into the team. But if it does, I think he'll be in the team as an opening batsman.
Ravi, as an icon of Indian cricket, what does Ashes cricket mean to you?
It's huge. It's tradition. It's history. I mean, for me, I started following the Ashes from the 1974 series. Listening on the radio to ABC Australia. Lindsay Hazzett and Alan McGilvery's. Discussing and commentating on that Ashes, where Lilly and Thompson, broke onto the scene and smashed England. It really made them hop, and for the first time, you saw, tearaway fast bowlers coming into the mix, and dismantling an opposition. There was, there was terror around, all of England. They were shocked seeing that kind of pace from Lilly and Thompson, in that series, and then the Chappell brothers, at their pomp, Ian leading the way he did, never lost a series as captain. It was a ruthless Australian side that came into the mix, and then of course the history of England. And Ashes cricket has been going on for a long time. You pull your mind back to the 30s and what Bradman did in England. With all those triple hundreds, the Huttons and things, that sort, because that was real Test cricket for a long period of time. It was England, Australia. Till other teams started getting stronger. The West Indies came onto the scene in the 60s. And then, of course, ruled the game in the 80s and 90s. And then other teams came, like India came into the mix, became stronger sides. South Africa came into the mix. But for many, many years, there's 100 years of cricket. It was for a long, long time England, Australia. And still is. What you want is a contest. Why it's gone off the rails a little bit? Because it's been one-sided. For the last decade and a half, it's been Australia dominating. Most of the time, especially in Australia. In England, they run it close, but England have not competed in Australia. So this is their best chance. They come with a really good pace attack, and if the fast bowlers are fit, then you'll see some good cricket in this series. Very good cricket.
There's no reason why it shouldn't appeal to Indian audiences, because the spice levels are already pretty high in this series. The tadka has already been added. Stuff has been said. I don't want to misquote this, so I'm going to look down. Warner has said that England will be playing for a moral victory. Stuart Broad is saying that this is the worst Aussie team he's seen in years. Who do you think, gentlemen, is going to have the last laugh here?
Look, to be totally honest, as I said, as a cricket fan now and someone that's going to be commentating the series, I can't wait for it to get underway. In fact, I'm surprised it's taken so long for Warner and Broad to have a crack back at each other. It normally happens a couple of months out before the first Ashes test, and this one's only a couple of weeks out. So, everyone will try and tell you that, it's just another game of cricket. Well, Ashes cricket, it's not just another game. It's different. It goes to a different level. There's more media speculation. There's more spotlight. We're talking more. I don't know how much we've talked ever about a selection of what we've got coming up with the Australian team. For the last couple of months, selection for the Ashes has been spoken about. So, and unusually this time around as well, I'm pretty sure that I can pick England's team for the first test right now, where you can't actually pick Australia's. It's almost a bit of the reverse. So they will come here well prepared. They'll have a good team, I think, to compete in Australia. I think. I sort of know that. I think the reason that when Brendan took over, and they started playing this, baseball form of cricket that I know Brendan doesn't like that term, but the ultra aggressive nature of the way they play, I think it's only ever been designed to stand up and beat Australia in Australia. That's the reason they're playing this brand, is they know that they'll have to play that way in Australia to win. Now they've only won 4 Test matches in Australia this century, so they've got they're going to have to turn history on its head to win a series here. Look, Australia will start favourites, and what's said in the press and leading up doesn't matter one bit. It's how you turn up and how you're ready to play for that first morning in Perth, and that can sometimes dictate the way the whole series goes. You've got to make sure you're ready for that first half an hour or first hour of the first Test match, and try and sort of set the momentum in your favour there and then.
That 12 inches, that 1 foot of extra bounce. You saw that last night, Perth, right? And when you have tall, fast bowlers coming at you, And Boland will be a handful on that kind of track. If it's a similar track with that kind of bounce, then the adjustment has to be quick. So when England come, that adjustment has to be, very, very quick on day one and day two, because you get behind the 8 ball in Australia, they'll be all over you.
In modern day cricket, if there are two terms that go really well, it is Joe Root and Test centuries, but one on Australian soil has eluded him. How much pressure, Ravi, for him to get his first in Australia this time around?
It will play on his mind, whether he likes it or not, because he's a world-class player. He's got runs everywhere, around the world. And, as an individual, you take pride in your performance. Deep down, you want it badly. You want it very badly. He's got runs everywhere. So he knows, and England know, if Joe Root has a 500-plus run series in Australia, then England have a very, very good chance, of competing and probably running Australia very close, if not getting past them. But that 500-run series is needed. Then if he doesn't get 100, it doesn't matter. But if he gets 500-plus runs in this series in Australia, that's what England want more than anything else.
Yeah, and I think he's better equipped now as a player than ever. I think other times he's come here to Australia, he's had one or two little technical issues that on the extra bouncy wickets, the Australian fast bowlers have been able to exploit. And you watch the way that he's played over the last 12 or 18 months, it looks like he's worked really hard on taking those motive dismissals out of play. But you also know, that little man that sits on your shoulder, he keeps telling you, you haven't done well here in the past, you haven't got 100 here. So that's it's a mental thing for him this series more than anything else. His game is magnificent at the moment. He's got to get over that little mental hurdle and get 100. And I actually think he will. I think he will get 100 this time around. And I actually hope he does, because I read a quote about a month ago from a great mate of mine, Matthew Hayden, saying that if he doesn't get 100 on this tour, then he would walk a lap of
Yes.
the MCG nude. And trust me, nobody wants to see that. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for Joe Root.
No, and I met Haydos yesterday, and he said, I'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, but we won't be happy to see it.
Come on, Joe Root. Save us all. But all right, we're approaching the business end of the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup. India have lost 3 matches now on the trot. Ravi, if you were to address that dressing room ahead of 2 very important games for them now to make the knockouts, what would you say to them?
I think they need to win one against New Zealand. It becomes a crucial game. New Zealand have not had the best, starts in the World Cup. They've not had their share of luck. But having said that, if India can qualify, then everything else is history. Once you qualify, then it's how good you're on that day. Irrespective of the other teams who are already qualified now, even if they're beaten you in the league stage, it's a knockout. Once you get into that semi-final position, and so they got to believe that they can still go the distance. That's what they got to tell themselves. The law of averages has to catch up. You've lost 3 on the trot, 4th time lucky, and then win 3 on the trot after that. Win 3 from here, and you could, win the World Cup. So it's that's what you got to be telling them.
And for Australia, they've become the first team to qualify for the semi-final stages of this Cricket World Cup, and everybody saw that coming. They easily are one of the greatest sporting teams that Australia has produced.
Oh, look, there's no doubt about that, and they have been for maybe 10 years. They've dominated, the female game for such a long period of time. They were stung into action a little bit probably in the last ICC event that they didn't win, but no, everything's heading in the right direction for them at the moment. They've got every base covered. That's the thing. I mean, they bat so deep as well. They've got power batting, all the way down to sort of 8, 9, and 10. So you can never count them out of the game. And they've also got experience. They've got so many experienced players in that side now that you know will stand up in the big moments, as Alyssa did in the last World Cup final. So. No, they're on the right track. A great team. They deserve all the accolades that they get, because it's not just been like it's been a dominant phase for a couple of years. It's been a dominance for, as I said, pretty much a decade. So, well done to them so far, and hopefully they can go all the way.
Well, you talk about them batting deep, but in the last couple of games, they've not needed it because Alyssa Healy's been smashing back-to-back centuries. She's been executing the pull shot to perfection. Many are saying it's very Ricky Ponting-esque what she's been doing.
if you had to look at me trying to do that right now, I don't think I'll be able to do it at all. So, maybe 15 years ago, yes, but no. No, happy to sit back and just watch the great players play now. You get so much enjoyment out of watching male or female, watching them going about their games, and so I get a lot of thrill from that. I get a lot of thrill from working with really young kids as well. My son, as I said, loves the game, and I'm there every Monday and Wednesday night helping his junior team out. That's where I get the satisfaction and enjoyment from these days.
Awesome. Ricky, Ravi, thank you so much for joining us on the ICC Review. Wonderful insight as always. We've got so much cricket coming up, and I can't wait to sit down and chat with you about all of that once again. And that's everything we have for you on this edition of the ICC Review. Be sure to follow all of ICC's social channels for the latest updates from the sport, and also do not forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much for tuning in.